Well, yesterday I cooked steak in my Lodge cast iron skillet, and I want you to look how this crud is on the bottom of my skillet. So today I got to ask you a question. Does salt clean cast iron? Yes, it certainly does, and we're going to show you how to do it. We're going to show you a different way to do this. I've done it before in a previous video, and I'll leave a link to that down in the description of how we take salt and just put it in the skillet and add a little hot water to it and make a paste. But today we're going to clean this cast iron skillet on the stove with heat. So I've got my heat on, I've got my cast iron skillet. What you want to do is wipe it out, and I've done that. I wiped out most of the chunks out of it. There's a couple here and there, but all you really need to do is use some coarse sea salt or kosher salt. Now you could use table salt, I guess, if you wanted to, but it's too fine actually. We need something with a little grit. You see how fine that is? I mean, that's a little too fine for us. But what we need, first of all, is we're going to place a little bit of oil in this instead of water. As I said earlier in a previous video we used water, hot water, to clean cast iron. So what you want to do basically is just get you a little bit of oil in here, and we're going to heat this thing up. I've got my skillet heating now, and what we want to do is we're going to place some larger pieces of coarse sea salt into this cast iron skillet, into the bottom, into the base, and we're going to let it heat up. And as this heats up, what it will do, it will start to release all the crud and baked on stuff that's on this skillet, and it will begin to release that and pull that away from the cast iron. And all we'll need to do at that point, once it heats up, and I'll show you how this looks here in a little bit. It's going to take a minute or so for this to completely get to the point, but you can see how the oil is starting to bubble just a little bit, and the salt is starting to bubble. And once it gets to that point, we can kind of just, I'm going to let this cook just a little bit. We want the salt to start to turn color a little bit, so you're going to have to let it heat for just a minute or two, and you'll start to see how this sea salt starts changing colors and pulling those impurities out of your cast iron, which was baked on, cooked on food particles and oil. This is great for, like, if you cook fish or whatever and you have a skillet that has a smell to it, you can take and heat up sea salt into your cast iron like this, and it will help pull out any smell in your cast iron. Now, if you can see, as Teresa's got the camera here, as you can see right here in the middle, you can start to see how that salt is beginning to turn colors. It's starting to turn brown looking because it's starting to draw those impurities out of that cast iron. Now, I used olive oil. You can use any kind of oil that you want. You can see it's starting to smoke. It's getting hot, and the salt is starting to pull the impurities out of this. So basically, you can just take a paper towel and just kind of wipe around in here. Just like that right there. And you can see how that's starting to pull that out. See how that salt has turned colors and is pulling that stuff off the bottom of it. Now this was baked on pretty bad, so look at that. Look how it's pulled all that black stuff off the bottom of this skillet. And you may have to do this more than once, but this will clean your skillet real well, and it will help the seasoning actually on the bottom of it too. So I'm going to pull this out, pull this salt out, and we're going to rinse this off and do this one more time. Okay, well, we rinsed out that last little bit of salt that we had in there that pulled a lot of that out. And you can see a big majority of this is already released. And like I said, you can use any type of oil that you want. You could use bacon grease, you could use olive oil, or as that's heating up, you can see that starting to pull that impurities out. I want you to look at this salt. That salt was really white when I first put it in here. We've got a little bit of olive oil in the base of it, but I want you to look at how black that salt is turning because it is drawing the impurities off the bottom of this skillet. And I'm just going to kind of lightly move this around as Teresa looks at that a little bit. I want you to look at the base of that cast iron at how it's removed all the baked on stuff. I want you to look at how easy this spatula just slides across the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to throw my paper towel back in here and just kind of wipe this out a little bit. And once we get this wiped down and get all the impurities out of this, I'm going to go back over to the stove and I'm going to rinse this out. So, man, that's really smooth there. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We'll be back in just a second. Okay, here we are over here at the sink. Now, folks, I want to just give you a pro tip here real quick. Do not ever put cold water in a hot cast iron skillet. Just make sure your water is hot into a cast iron skillet. It's still going to steam a little bit, but that's okay. But you definitely never want to put cold water in a hot cast iron skillet. Now, I'm just going to kind of rinse this salt out. Rinse it around on the sides a little bit. And you've seen how baked on, how cruddy that was, but that's how salt will thoroughly clean cast iron. And I mean, it's smooth as Tennessee whiskey. Now what we're going to do now, once we've got it clean, we're going to take it back over to the stove and lightly oil it like we normally do. Okay, we've got our skillet back over here on the stove and we've got it washed and cleaned out. I'm just going to add a little bit of Crisco because I like Crisco for seasoning cast iron. I use bacon grease, I use avocado oil, grapeseed oil, and different things like that. They're all real good. We're just going to put a little bit of Crisco in here and let that melt down. We're going to wipe this down just like we normally would to season our cast iron. I put a little too much in here. You don't want that much in there, but I'll wipe that out. You want to wipe that down all over, inside and out. Get any excess oil out. It's best to do the bottom because you can see how it's got just a little bit of rust starting to form from where it was in the sink earlier. I mean, it forms that fast. And I always do a little bit of seasoning on the bottom, or oiling on the bottom. And then we'll let that heat up and cool down right there. And so that's what we've got as far as cleaning a cast iron skillet with salt and heat. Like I said, I've got a video where we've done it with just hot water. We'll leave that in the description. But you can clean cast iron with oil and salt. So you guys, hey, we appreciate it. Check out this video right here because it was made for you, and we'll see you guys over there. Have a great day. It's Mike, Mrs. Cast Iron. We'll see you. Bye-bye.